The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out to see our webinar on wireless connectivity in education. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just type them into the text box on the right and we'll be sure to answer them throughout the presentation or at the end. And without further ado, here's Chetan to give you the presentation.
Hey Colin, thanks. Hi everyone, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on your time zone. What we wanted to do in this webinar was put together a set of solutions of how Cambium products work together for school deployments. And we're specifically focusing on education deployments in the K through 12 sector. So that would be elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. But as we go through this presentation, if you have questions for other kinds of associated deployments, please stop and ask us your questions and we'll try and answer them. We do have a number of deployments, not only in the elementary, middle, and high schools, but also in college and universities as well. So without further ado, let's proceed. Well, one of the things we're seeing over and over again from our vast worldwide customer base in literally all 6 continents is that when it comes to education, we're seeing that in most developed and developing countries, education is trending towards more multimedia and also more self-directed as children access videos and other presentations. And along with that, there is also a need for secure access as well. And underlying all of these 3 things is people want all of this, but also want something that is flexible and easy to deploy and can bring wireless connectivity at a much faster rate. And Cambium, with its unique collection of wireless products, we're seeing a lot of demand in rural and suburban areas where it's been difficult to bring in wireless, bring in fiber-based connectivity. And now with our availability of our Wi-Fi products, we're also seeing a lot of interest in building classroom connectivity as well. Previously, where people were just focused on connecting and on providing internet into the classroom, we're now seeing schools, both private and public, wanting this connectivity not only in schools but in common areas, in auditoriums, and also in outdoor playground areas as well. So we're seeing the same trend play out in schools that we're seeing playing out in the larger domain, where people expect the internet to be available pretty much wherever they sit, eat, or congregate together. And of course, in the case of schools, that connectivity is not only for students, but also for staff and administration members as well. And in all of these things, where people get interested in our solution is when they're looking for something that's both reliable and affordable. And with our focus on connecting the unconnected around the world, this is something where Cambium is in a unique position to satisfy a lot of the demand for schools. The rest of the presentation will kind of segue from the more general trends to how Cambium brings this connectivity to schools. Here at Cambium, we have 2 fundamental lineup of products. One is our newest member of the family, the Wi-Fi product range, both indoor and outdoor, specifically the cnPilot E400 and the cnPilot E500. And then on the outdoor side, we have our backhaul solutions comprised of the ePMP, our PMP 450 and PTP 820 and our PTP 650 as well. With all of these solutions, we're able to bring connectivity either from a fiber tap point to the school where it's not feasible to pull that fiber all the way to the school, or once you bring the internet connectivity up to the school campus, people are looking to bridge the various buildings inside the campus, what we call as intra-campus connectivity, with our point-to-point solutions or our point-to-point multi-point solutions. Well, for those who are not familiar with our Wi-Fi products, our Wi-Fi products come in two ranges. It comes in our enterprise range and our home and small business range. In our enterprise range, we have the E400, the ePMP 1000 hotspot, and the E500. The E400 is our indoor product. The ePMP 1000 hotspot and our E500 are outdoor access points. The ones on the black there are typically designed for ISPs to deploy in homes. These are the R200 and R201. We won't go a whole lot into them at this presentation, but if you're interested in any of those, on those two products, please reach out to us offline and we'd be happy to supply you information on them. Connecting all of these together is cnMaestro. cnMaestro functions as our management system, and in the case of Wi-Fi, as the Wi-Fi controller for our enterprise product. And it's a little bit unique in that we have tied cnMaestro to manage all of our product lines across our PMP and our cnPilot product lines. So today, cnMaestro manages ePMP and PMP 450 and cnPilot, and by the middle of 2017, we'll manage our PTP 650, 700, and 820 products as well. So at the end of the day, it gives you a single pane of glass from which to manage all of Cambium's equipment that you deploy in any school campus. So before we delve into our campus deployment, a little bit brief segue into what the cnMaestro controller and management system does. cnMaestro is a completely ground-up design. It's a highly scalable architecture. We've used all of the latest advances in software design and engineering to build a system that can both work on the cloud as well as on premises. So for example, if you're a VAR or a system integrator or an ISP who's bringing connectivity to schools, depending on your comfort level, you can deploy this management system, take advantage of it already deployed in the cloud, or you can deploy it on premises, on your own premises, and act as a managed service provider for the school itself. The architecture is highly distributed, so there is no single point of failure, and in its foundation, it's got all of the elements built in for redundant operation. Eventually, in 2017, cnMaestro will also be available in a high availability version, and that is ideal for anyone who wants to provide a highly available network deployment for schools. The second thing that cnMaestro does is what we call a zero-touch fast onboarding. With this architecture, any of Cambium's products that are supported in cnMaestro support this feature. What that does is it has the equipment contacting the manager and not the other way around, which is what we traditionally do with the traditional SNMP based management. So that means that it uses a tunneling protocol based on the same tunneling protocol that's used in your secure banking transactions, HTTPS, and it can now, the equipment can talk back to cnMaestro. So most of the firewalls and ports along the way are designed to allow this protocol to go from inside to outside the network securely. And so you don't need to touch any of the firewalls and other equipment. When you power on the equipment, it can, as long as there is internet access, the equipment can talk to cnMaestro. And the last thing is, if you're someone managing multiple schools, or if you're a school IT admin managing different schools within your school district or your school community, cnMaestro supports multi-tenancy, which means that you can segment your network and keep different parts of your customers' data separate from each other. So it's got built-in data privacy, and by the end of this quarter, we'll be supporting role-based management as well, which means that you can manage multiple customers, and then you can have each of those individual customers have a login as well. So for example, if you're managing multiple schools, you can give a login to each individual school admin to manage just their own individual school network. What all of that does is, if you're deploying this in a school, it's much more quicker to deploy a combination of our equipment with cnMaestro. You could scan the equipment, enter all of the information needed for provisioning and inventory management of the equipment into cnMaestro even before you open the box. Once you're done that, at a time of your choosing, you can then install the equipment. And once the equipment is installed, it just registers, pulls down its config, and upgrades. And that's what we call a zero-touch fast onboarding. So here we'll segue into two segments here. The rest of the presentation will focus a little bit on our Wi-Fi products, which is where we're seeing a lot of the demand come in from schools. We'll talk a little bit about their applicability to the school, highlight a couple of features. But given the broad nature of this presentation, we'll probably not go into a whole lot of detail. But if you have any questions, please feel free to type in those questions in the window, and we'll answer them as we go along. Colin, are there any questions at this point?
Not yet.
Okay. So our cnPilot E400 indoor, this has been pretty popular in a number of school deployments. This is a 802.11 AC dual band access point. It's got a 5 dBi antenna, omni coverage, and is PoE powered, and comes with a gigabit Ethernet port. This one has a very high transmit power, 24 dB and 25 dB, pretty much the top of the range for indoor products. And that combined with the 5 dBi antenna gives you really powerful indoor omni coverage. Being 802.11 AC and being able to accommodate up to a maximum of 256 clients and up to 16 SSIDs, this has been pretty popular in school deployments. It also supports indoor meshing now since the last 3 months. So it makes for a very convenient way to extend your network if you've got one of those areas where you don't want to pull a line, an Ethernet line over. It's rated to operate from 0 to 50 degrees Celsius. That's something you've seen in only a few access points. A lot of them are from 40 to 45. This one goes all the way up to 50. It's also plenum rated, so the smoke that you get from the plastic is not toxic. And more importantly, it comes with dual memory banks. It's got an active and backup software. So if you've ever got a situation where you need to fall back, you can always keep a working version of the software on this access point. So that increases the availability of your solution. Now, what made this AP very popular is really the fact that it can not only accommodate a large number of clients, it can do it can really handle almost 100 plus concurrent video streams, as one of our customers found out. In our own testing, we've tested up to 50 concurrent video streams, and we had a customer in Asia who was planning to deploy these access points into schools, and they wanted to make this is an ISP customer, so they did some really rigorous testing where they wanted to make sure that this access point can handle a lot of the Chrome notebooks that students have been using. So as you can see in this picture, they put 100 Chrome notebooks in a large room. This is just one portion of that room. And then they proceeded to download YouTube video streams. And they were blown away by the performance of this very lightweight AP. At 100 plus concurrent video streams, it kept going. And that's something that has steered their decision to go with cnPilot for their upper education deployment. The other product that's finding a popular application is our popular E500. The E500 has been out in the market for about the last 4 to 5 months, and its combination of price and performance has been very appealing for school deployments. This one is a dual band outdoor Wi-Fi with an omni coverage. It's designed to look like a flat panel, so you can always mount it flush against a wall, but it provides omni coverage. And it's got a very high transmit power, 28 dB and 29 dB of transmit power with a 5 dB and omni antenna gain. So that gives you anywhere from 33 to 34 dB of total EIRP gain. So that gives a pretty high range. In our own testing, we found that this access point could go farther than 700 feet under clear line of sight conditions. And like the E400, this one can accommodate up to 256 users and 16 SSIDs. It also supports meshing between access points. Those numbers you see for meshing are what we found to be about the max range for its mesh, over 2 kilometers for 2.4 and 1 kilometer for 5 gigahertz. Now, we don't recommend that you do it at those far rates because your throughput typically falls with distance, but that gives you a sense of how powerful this access point is. We also included something called an LTE coexistence filter. Now, this is something that you may never run into if you're not a service provider. But one of the reasons this is important is when you deploy these access points in outdoor areas near schools, you've also got carriers coming in with their LTE equipment, and right adjacent to 2.4 gigahertz around the world, there are two bands of LTE, the two bands reserved for LTE transmission. So any day when you deploy your outdoor equipment, you have a chance that your outdoor network could be interfered to by a carrier deploying somewhere nearby on a city street or a street somewhere. For example, in the US, you've got Sprint owning two of those bands right adjacent to the 2.4 gigahertz band. So we've included this filter that gives you a much higher resilience against any bleeding from those LTE bands. So we've future-proofed it. And as far as we know, we're the only only equipment in the $300 price point range that includes these kind of filters. The last one we know is over $1,000 for an outdoor access point that has these kind of filters. It's also IP67, can take a lot of beating, and it's extremely lightweight, 881 grams without bracket. So nothing special, no specialized mounts required. You can pretty much mount it on any simple pole. In addition to that, it's got industrial memory components. So really, we've increased the range of its operation from -30 to +60 degrees. It's also got an onboard heater for those cold areas where you need to have it work under cold conditions and start under cold conditions. Little things like making sure there's a pressure venting to seal against humidity, to prevent the degradation against humidity. So you have the life of this equipment is much longer. And most importantly, comes with 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. We've included 2 gigabit Ethernet ports not only to daisy chain the data, but also you can convert one of those ports into an aux power port. What that does is you can mount the E500 up on a pole and then mount a Cambium wireless backhaul next to it and be able to power that. Or as one of our, we found one customer who's mounted the E400 and then powered an 802.3 AF powered security camera from the E500. So you can daisy chain the power as well. So you run only one power line up, and now you can power at least 2 pieces of equipment from that one power line. A very convenient and easy, handy way to quickly install equipment. Now, here's the kicker. The E500 comes in at a list price of $349. Now, when you look at some of the other popular brands out there, this is lower priced than most other popular brands. And then when this is a snapshot of our own performance testing. We ran the E500 against some of these popular brands, the one in white and the one famous for beam flexing. And we found that with distance, the E500 kept up its throughput much longer than any of the other products. So even as far as 500 feet, the loss of throughput was much lower on the E500 than on any other bands. And most deployments go in from 100 to 300, maybe 400 feet, in most good outdoor deployments. And you'll find that the E500 was able to sustain much longer throughputs. Now, of course, this is our testing under line of sight clear conditions. your own real-world results will vary a bit. On the 5 gigahertz, we found pretty much the same story. Now 5 gigahertz as a frequency tends to attenuate much faster, but we once again found that the E400 is able to hold up much higher throughputs in that 100 to 300 feet range especially. All in all, with those kind of performance numbers combined with the ability of our Wi-Fi APs to either mesh or work in the case of the E500 with our PMP 450 or our ePMP, gives you lots of convenient ways to deploy our products. So for example, if you have an outdoor schoolyard, you could have the E500 mesh back to an indoor E400 if that is where the Ethernet line is. So you don't have to pull a separate Ethernet line all the way to the schoolyard. Gives you a convenient way to extend outdoor Wi-Fi. Another option, if you're doing any kind of campus connectivity, is you could have the E500 and then backhaul it much longer distance with an ePMP or a PMP 450 or a PTSP 650. And now you're able to mix and match these products, and you get both. You get the advantage and the convenience of meshing, or you get the higher SLA, service level agreements, that you can promise your customers by using the dedicated backhaul equipment from Cambium as well. So those were a kind of a run-up of all of the different hardware features. Any questions so far before we segue into an overview of software features?
Still no questions yet. Feel free to ask them if you have any, but no questions yet.
Okay. Now what we've done is supplemented all of the hardware features that we've shown so far with software features that are a good fit, especially for school kind of deployments. Across both our indoor and outdoor WLAN access products, and you can combine them with mesh, or you can mesh them, or in the case of the outdoor, you can combine with Cambium dedicated backhaul. On the software side, we also support a feature called controller-less roaming. Now, if any of you are familiar with Wi-Fi, a lot of the manufacturers require you to have a controller. These are often little appliance boxes that you have to put on premises, and only when you put that equipment in can you support features like roaming or band steering. In the case of cnPilot equipment, we offer multiple options. You can roam across access points without the need for a hardware controller. Now, typically, those kind of solutions have in the past been very pricey, and we've taken features like that and made them available at $200 price points, or less than $200 price points. You can also do band steering. A lot of the equipment today comes in 5 gigahertz. For example, iPhones and Samsung equipment, almost all of them support 5 gigahertz. Most laptops support 5 gigahertz. So where the access point sees a client device capable of 5 gigahertz operation, it steers the client device over to 5 gigahertz from 2.4. When that happens, the 2.4 gigahertz band gets freed up for older equipment, and it's at the same time the 5 gigahertz capable client or laptop gets access to a faster lane. And you can do all of this without the need for a controller. But if you do have a controller, you get all of those benefits plus the advantages of managing them much more conveniently. We also support features where you can put each SSID on a dedicated VLAN, so you can segment your traffic from across schools, across students and faculty and staff, put them on different VLANs. You can also, one other feature that you can do is, sometimes it's convenient to have guest or portal access. For example, if there are guests that come in, or you want to give temporary access to students on a particular day, you can literally enable those features right off of the access point. But let's say you have 50 of these access points in a school, you can still enable the guest and portal access features through cnMaestro. Those features are due for release by the end of this month. The other important thing in school is security of access. You can set up layer 2 and layer 3 ACLs on the equipment, and we also support AAA based dynamic selection of destinations. So you can block certain destinations from being accessed, which is an important criteria in any setting with internet access for students. We also support features where you can set your SSIDs to go on and off at specific times of the day, and being able to do this on an SSID basis is very convenient. You can have the student SSID, for example, turn on at 7 a.m. Or 8 a.m. in the morning and then stay on till 5 p.m. You can have the staff SSID stay on till 6 p.m. and you can have all of them turn off on Saturdays and Sundays. So that's a very convenient and handy feature where you can synchronize your Wi-Fi operation along with your school timings. And we already talked about mesh. And underlying all of this is the management system that you deploy in these schools gives you tremendous troubleshooting capabilities. You can look at the Wi-Fi equipment. You can manage, configure, upgrade, or monitor your Wi-Fi. You can also get hotspot portal hosting right on the controller itself. And in the case of wireless backhaul, you can manage that from the same management system as well. So you get the convenience of managing all of Cambium's backhaul equipment and Wi-Fi from one management screen. That kind of rounds out our feature set on the product and the product itself. We'll segue a little bit into some of our deployments around the world. This is a deployment out of Singapore. In this case, in this particular high school, they had over 350 students, and there are about 14 floors of dormitories, offices, and canteen. And in this first phase, they've supplied Wi-Fi to those dorms with E400 indoor equipment. And this is another case where students in the dorms often download multimedia. They often have gaming devices. And so it was very important criteria for the war in this case to be able to put in an equipment that can handle video streaming and also voice over IP without any hiccup. And the E400 has been performing flawlessly here. In this particular case, it's a managed ISP deployment. So the system integrator provides 24/7 monitoring, and they host the management system on their premises. Another example of our recent deployment is from Italy. In this case, SICE Telecom has been the system integrator that came in and put in the equipment and is monitoring this installation. They use a combination of point-to-point links and Wi-Fi. So as you can see on the picture on the right, the buildings are connected by a point-to-point link, and then there is indoor Wi-Fi inside the classroom. And once again, in this case, we have over 140 E400s deployed across multiple buildings. In this case, the criteria was the affordability, especially the very attractive price point of the E400, along with the system reliability and the fact that they can host the management system and manage all of Cambium's point-to-point and the indoor Wi-Fi from one management system. So that's an example of two of our deployments from two different parts from Asia and Europe. We've got a couple of other people who are currently in deployment, and in our next iteration, we hope to share some more stories of our deployment here. A brief word on how far we've come along in about about a year and 3 months since launch of this product. We're now deployed in all 6 continents around the world. A vast majority of our deployments are in Europe and North America. And with over 5.5 million products in operation in over 150 countries, we support all of our equipment through our partner network and also through our 24/7 Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 support.
Hey, Chetan, we actually have a question, and it is, how is self-interference being managed with so many APs deployed?
Okay, that's a good question. So cnPilot E400 support one critical feature, and that is automatic channel selection. So when you deploy a number of these APs, say one AP in a classroom, they can often see the other AP, but you can schedule, you can do automatic channel selection on the E400, and that's how you're able to put them automatically in different channels. You can also override the automatic channel selection and set up your own manual channel selection as well. Now, one other feature we're bringing at the end of this quarter is automatic transmit power as well. Presently on these APs, one way to manage self-interference is to control the transmit power of these APs in addition to channel selection. But by the end of this quarter, the APs can also automatically control their channel by understanding their neighborhood and their network. Okay.
Yep, that answers that question. And if you, we actually did get one more real quick before you get started on the next part of your presentation. Do you turn them up one at a time?
No, you can actually, automatic channel selection can be set as a configuration parameter, and you can push that configuration to hundreds or thousands of these APs through cnMaestro. So when you enable the automatic channel selection or any other config parameter, you can push them up to all the APs at the same time. And the APs will do the channel scanning either on a schedule or upon startup. I hope that answers your question.
I think it did. Yep, he said yes.
Okay. I also have another question here from someone who said, will this be available later as a stream? Colin, all of our webinars are recorded and they are available. Where would people need to go to see these?
That is correct. It's on our website. If you go to, I believe it's under resources, you can see them there. You'll see a webinars tab.
Okay. I hope the gentleman is still there who had to leave because we do want to cover one important point. If the E400 was not already priced very attractively, we've just announced a new promotion on the E400. It's called our Baker's Dozen promotion. If you buy 10 E400s, we'll throw in 3 more E400s. So you get 3 E400s free for every 10 E400s. And that's a great deal. That promotion runs from now through the end of the year. So I hope any of you looking to deploy these E400s, this would be a good time to take advantage of this promotion. For our audience here, who are system integrators or value-added resellers, Cambium also offers a very attractive deal registration. We recently opened up deal registration for cnPilot as well. And so please reach out to us if you are working on a project and you'd like to register the deal. That gives you additional discount on our products. It also protects you as the integrator of choice if we have some other integrator coming in for the same deal. Once again, reach out to us for more details or reach out to your distributors. All of this information is available online through our partner portal network as well. So we've hopefully given you a taste of what you can get from Cambium, and also you can get some of the monetary benefits as well by taking advantage of the promotion or by being part of the partner network and taking advantage of our deal registration. There's also a question here that came in. Can the presentation be downloaded?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can download it or stream it, but I know you can access it one way or the other.
And they would go to Cambium Networks /webinars?
I believe so.
Okay. So maybe we'll if you can go back to Cambium /webinars, and also I believe on the forum, we do post some of our webinars as well.
Yeah, on our community page.
Okay. Okay. Any other final questions before we wrap up our webinar today? Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure.
There was a question. Does Cambium provide the cloud for the management?
It does. One of the things Cambium does is we provide, it's a true cloud offering, so it's not a software running on some server somewhere. It's a ground up designed cloud. You go over to cloud.cambiumnetworks.com and you can register yourself. It's the same ID that you would use for our support page as well. So it's a single sign-on. Once you're registered, that same ID can be used to post questions on the forum and to access our support material. And when you go there, you'll find that if you have any CN pilot equipment, you can register that equipment in your name. And then if you have the latest software, it will automatically register, join the cloud network. You can also then, if you're on cloud.cambiumnetworks.com, you'll also find a beta site for those who are interested in beta to try out our newest features as well. Okay, so thank you all for your time. Like I said, this is just a brief overview. We have a lot more details. Please reach out to us, post your questions on the forum or send us email, and we'd be happy to answer any details that we may not have covered on the presentation. Thank you once again, and hope to see you on another webinar.